Hey, 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 what's going on? Welcome, Angela. It's good to see you. What's up, Henry? Welcome, Leslie. My baby Cakes, welcome.
Got a haircut, Dylan?
I sure did. Yep. My
That's
my
good.
my barber is in the room. Heather's my barber.
I've cut my husband's hair our entire marriage.
Same. Yep.
Yep. It's like, oh, you don't need to go to a hairstylist. I've got this.
Well, I'm loving your hairstyle right now.
Why, thank you. Isn't that fun? I
Yeah,
took,
it's looking great.
thanks.
Oh my gosh, so cool.
Thanks. I took a
Oh,
I took a break from my hair for a minute and it was like I got really brave and went with my natural hair. And it's like, okay, putting hair back on.
oh, so are those extensions on the sides?
There it's a whole wig.
Oh, okay.
I've been wearing wigs for 10 years now.
I love wigs. I lost a lot of hair during
Menopause.
well, that also I'm going through now, but even in my early 20s, well, I used to glue my hair. I
Yes.
thought I
All
was
the
Jamaican. Well, my friends, I don't know, I used to just glue my hair but then after that, my mom said I was going through some trauma stuff and I lost a lot. So I cut my hair all the way to like an inch or 2 inches from my head. And then right?
yes.
And then I just tried different things, but I would also just put on wigs. I loved them. So
Yeah, when I found wigs, it was like liberating because it's like I can have hair. How fun is that? I
hmm
lost mine from chemical abuse, hair chemicals destroy the hair follicles and cause your hair to fall out.
Do you
And
have a yes, so true. That is so true. Do you have a do you order it? My girlfriend orders her wigs from Amazon with like real hair and stuff. And so
no, I actually we have hair stores in Texas. They're
oh
in every
nice.
town, there's at least one.
Oh, perfect. That's
And they're
awesome.
like $30.
I had one in New York, a couple of them that I used to buy too, that like a hair store that they had, yeah, for like 30 bucks, 40. It was really cool. Like 50 or something, but yeah.
Yeah. I've paid as much as 80 one time.
Yeah. You should see a woman I know, she has cancer and she lost all her hair, but she pays so much money for these wigs. Oh my God. Oh yeah.
I know. I've seen some $400 ones, and I've heard that they don't last any longer than a $30 one.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So what's the point?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
You probably won't believe this, but in high school, I used to have a ponytail where it went to probably like the mid center of my back,
I do
and
believe it.
I believe it too.
I cut the whole thing off and I donated it. So somebody is wearing my hair
Oh,
right now.
Love it.
oh,
Love
so
it. Love it.
cool. I love that.
Yeah,
Love
at
your
first
colors, Leslie.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
Lots of fun. It's
Yeah,
like, I'm going to wear the rainbow hair
I love it.
because I'm
Mhm.
getting that new promise.
just messages.
So I got to tell you guys something cool. I think Leslie will find it cool. I was on my way home today. I went into a little for some reason I started dissecting and going to questions and answers and I guess with the course in miracles for a second and then I was like, what did I ask myself? I was like, Jesus. I said, Jesus. Oh, because I was listening to something on a recording and they're like, Jesus died for you to, what did they say? To show you that there's no death, or
Right.
something like that. And then I'm like, well, then Jesus, why did you do this or do that? And I'm talking to Jesus in my head. And then I got this crazy doubt, like of there's a doubt of a fear. And I was out of nowhere when that doubt came in, I said, no, 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 this is just fear. I'm just gonna let it go. And all of a sudden, but it stayed with me for a second. All of a sudden, I hear vroom, vroom. I'm on the highway, mind you, and I hear vroom, and it like a motorcycle, right? And Lily's veers, like when I had this down, I was finding myself in a little confusion. I'm going to send it to you guys right now. Literally veers into my thing. And so where, because I wouldn't have looked at it, but it like, where they start, like when you're on a motorcycle and you just rev the engine like higher. So, so as she was passing me, she like literally revved it. And on the back of her shirt, hold on, let me see if I can get, here we go. But this is not, this is her, she fought, well, she apparently went off the same exit as me. So this is when we were off the exit. But out of nowhere, as I was saying that in my head and talking to Jesus, she rears past me and says, Jesus loves you. I swear to God.
I see it. I see it.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
awesome.
How awesome is that? I was like almost having tears in my eyes. I'm like, this, wait, what?
That's
Like,
great.
Right? It's
what
like
just
just in case you doubted.
that's the thing. I had a whole conversation with him in my head and I had that doubt and then I felt a little sad and confused and then I'm like, oh well, and then all of a sudden boom boom and again right highway. I'm in the middle of like to the end. She came in for me. It's like, look at me, and yeah, I was like, all right, Jesus, okay, you're right. Thank
Well,
you.
well, what I heard you say was that he's both in you and outside of you. That's what I heard you
Yeah.
say.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And that was your silly ego telling you that you didn't, he didn't love you, and all of those things where those doubts were arising from was your
Yeah.
Mhm.
ego.
Well,
Yeah.
I think what I was asking myself was, I was like, well, Jesus, if you were gonna die and just to prove that, death doesn't exist, but then all these religions came after, I mean, a religion came after you and there was a lot of like misunderstanding. Why did that happen? Why did you do it that way? I don't know. I was just asking. And then I'm like, oh, I'm just a little confused. And I found myself confused. And then I was like, oh man, I don't know what to believe. And then all of a sudden I felt like this, like a little child, like just this inner child, just like sad or confused. And then all of a sudden, that's when the motorcycle came right through. And then right after that, I just got back into like a place of love with him. And again,
Uh,
Oh, it's so sweet. I just
that's
love
great
it.
stuff.
wasn't that amazing?
It is
Wow, that's great
amazing.
stuff.
Like, whoa, right?
Yeah, I love that you're able to be with your parts in those moments too. And then come back to, rejoicing. Like that's really incredible.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
A
I had
fun
like a
thought
tear.
exercise, a fun thought exercise to be with, just like how your "Why did you die for us" conversation. You can back it up just a little bit before, right where Judah betrayed Jesus. and
Mhm.
and essentially, like, not only did he just teach us death doesn't exist, he taught us betrayal doesn't exist, and he
How?
literally through example showed both. So that's a good thought exercise to be with. If you just reverse a little bit more right before his death,
But
what
can you?
led to his death.
Okay, so he didn't betray him, if he said he betrayed him, I was a little confused. Like I
So
don't.
so the idea is that people believe Judah betrayed Jesus, and then that's
Yeah.
ultimately what led to Jesus's death.
Oh, okay. That's
And Jesus doesn't see it that way. So he's showing that Judah was just playing his role exactly where he was at to actually serve a higher purpose that goes way beyond the idea of betrayal. It like exceeds,
mm.
it's like such an all embracing love that it exceeds the concept of betrayal. So
Oh,
Jesus doesn't believe in betrayal or death, and he literally showed this through his resurrection, which is what we're being of good cheer about.
hmm, amazing. So it was meant to happen. That was
Yeah.
part of the plan.
Yeah.
Not only just meant to happen, but it was such an all embracing love. Someone who sacrificed what did no harm, right? Like he's literally like, anyways, yeah. Like I said, it's a really fun thought exercise to be with, especially with our exiled parts that feel betrayed or feel abandoned or feel, sad in some kind of way because of whatever kind of rejection that it's facing or experiencing or, whatever it is, right? Like this is, I mean, they say that this is the self, or well, they don't actually say this. There's controversy, which if the self is the Christ, or if the self leads a source from the Christ. It's a controversial conversation in the IFS community, which I just think it's kind of comical, because it's still kind of seeing these things as separate, but I see them as one and the same. And this is what we're learning is how to be self led, right? Be Christ led, right? Uh,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
what I'm hearing you experience in that moment. And you got both confirmation, inner confirmation and outer confirmation.
He heard my confusion and he responded when I was confused. Like the motorcycle could have passed me completely on the other side, but he went literally next to me and revved. I wouldn't have even looked.
Right,
I
right.
wouldn't even, it was on purpose, like vroom, vroom, like right in front of me, like almost cutting me up, but not just to like look at me. So I'm like, who the hell is, I'm like, oh my goodness. Like,
That's
Yeah.
and then
awesome.
he followed, and it went all followed, like literally was with me until we went off the exit together, almost to my house. I was
That's
like, are you
freaking
coming home
awesome.
with me? It's like, yeah. I
I
actually
love
almost
that.
had a tear in my eye because it was at the perfect moment of me communicating with him. It was just really amazing.
Yeah, good on you. And just like have 1 million more of those experiences, and we will remember fully. It's a practice, right?
Yeah, I think about you a lot when you used to tell me. I'm understanding now when you used to say this. You said this a while ago, and you were giving me hints about. I think when we were talking about first doing the mantras of A Course in Miracle, and you're like, just put your alarm. I put my alarm sometimes every 5 minutes to be present, 5 minutes to do this, like 5 minutes to think of my thoughts, and I'm thinking of these things that like are coming back to me and why you're doing it, and it makes a lot of sense. Of
Mm-hmm.
like, it's starting to click.
Yeah, I knew it would. And you're being in the practice too, so you're seeing through your direct experience, right? It's no longer just me telling you something. You're like trying it on and you're seeing, wow, there's actually proof to that. There's actually truth in this,
Yeah,
which is the most empowering thing anybody can do.
I know.
Because at some point, and I share this all the time with you, and this is for anybody. At some point, our time's going to come to an end. At some point, you're going to be teaching other people, right? The same stuff that you're learning. It's just the natural way of how things go, right?
When
We're all growing with teachers to outgrow teachers, essentially, and become our own teacher.
when you say teach other people, do you mean like in this lifetime or it's just
I'm talking about this lifetime, next lifetime,
okay.
all the time, all the and always, right? All of our
Mm,
relationships are teachers to us, and there's a season, reason, lifetime for each one of them.
mm. And
you know,
apparently you could be a teacher without being verbal. You could just teach through like other ways too. I'm because
yeah, everybody's a teacher. A stranger's a teacher. All these parts are teachers. Everything's a teacher. If we really want to gain value for ourselves, we can see the value.
yeah.
Which I mean, that's really the nature of these parts is that each one has a story and each one has a purpose, and we're just seeing the value of that part. Now, what most of us do is we don't know how to connect with these parts, so we might believe that they're the enemy. How many of you have heard you are your own worst enemy? How many of you guys heard this? And
My
then maybe
mom
even
always
believed
said
in
that.
it,
My mom
right?
said that all the time.
Yeah. I'm my own worst enemy.
Hmm.
And one of the things I noticed I said about myself and is that I make myself sick to my stomach.
Uh-huh.
And so, that's a same type of self curse is what that is.
Yep, yep, absolutely. And two, we've already worked on that part a little bit as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you got to work with this part and really see, wow, this part really is just trying to protect you the best way that it knows how to. It's technically not an enemy,
Yeah.
right? And two, that part, and this goes for all of us, all of our parts, they have different interests, they have gifts, they have talents, they all have skills, they all have unique different ones. And as we're learning it, every part has a positive intention for us, and they're just trying to help out the best way they can, just not always in the best way they can. And
Mm.
that's what we have to update them, or what we're going to learn in the next slide is how to start unblending from them, because some of the parts we might still believe is fully all of us. Like, for instance, if I'm depressed, all of me is depressed, right? Instead of just a part of me is depressed.
Right.
If I'm
Mhm.
angry, all of me is angry instead of just a part of me is angry, right? So we're starting to learn how to see where these parts come into our existence and when they came in our developmental part, like when they started really to arise.
I thought he was a part of me is angry, not all of me.
That's what I'm sharing with you. Yeah,
Oh,
we're in this work. We're starting to learn how to see in this way, which is where we can start to unblend from the part instead of being consumed by the part. But
yeah.
before we do that, we still believe that if we're experiencing it, then it's all of us,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're starting to see that if I made a mistake, oh, I'm bad and wrong. We don't see that, oh, these are just results that show me where I am, not who I am,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as we start to learn about these parts, we start to see this isn't them either, actually. That there's a lot more going on as we become curious with these parts. And we notice too that these parts, they belong to an internal system. So they have subparts or like subsystems within their parts, right? And there's like an infinitum of how this could show up. This is how complex we are as human beings, but we're also seeing that it's actually really simple. Especially when we pause and stop for a moment, take a deep inhale, and check in. What's going on in my body right now? What am I experiencing right now? And then, too, I can hear Leanne, well, I don't freaking know. My part's not saying anything to me, which I have a slide for that part. We'll talk about what happens when we can't hear the part directly and how to speak with it.
I had that
Nothing
experience
is a
too.
feeling. I mean, nothing is an answer.
Right, but we're really starting to learn that this inner life has all these parts have all these feelings, these thoughts. They have their own opinions, which sometimes they're rooted in the age that they were created. So they have opinions of an 8-year-old if they were formed as your 8-year-old self. And then we also notice that they all have different roles within the community of your inner system.
Yeah. I've just today, I'm writing in my journal as somebody else was yakking, and it was like, what's your story? What do you,
Uh,
because my 14-year-old self has been talking a lot, and it's like, okay, I've heard your story. What do you want me to do about it? And, how can I help you in this space? And so another part came up today, and it was, I wrote down different parts come up and tell their story. So when that happens, say, hello, part. What's your name? How old are you? How can I love you in this
mhm.
space? Take time to listen. They
Beautiful.
need to be heard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then I can give them an update and give them a new story. But I
Beautiful.
don't know, I still don't know how to give an update, and I still don't know how to do the new story. But
We're gonna focus on a lot of that today.
see, I knew it, because this
Yeah.
is how God does stuff with me. He said,
Yeah.
put on your rainbow hair and look how pretty it goes with the chart.
Yes.
It's like, come on, it's the same colors as
Yeah.
the chart.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I made these today too, which is funny.
So pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, and Tanya made the request about learning more about unburdening, which we're gonna get into. Or
Thank
unburdening the
you,
parts,
Tanya.
right? So
Yes. Mhm.
so we're noticing that there's parts who are right, which are the vulnerable ones, the exile, what we call as the exiled ones, right? The ones who carry the pain, and they are the ones who need love and safety in order to come out of exile. And we're noticing pretty much every single part that we work with, especially the exiled ones, when we add the love and the safety, they immediately receive healing. They're like overjoyed to receive healing. But now we have the parts who do, right? And these are the protector ones, the managers, which we have are proactive protectors. They're the ones who are warding off emotional pain proactively. So their style is to be managerial or, inhibitory, or they're socially acceptable. They're the ones who like to people please. They're the ones who need to plan things ahead of time. They're the controllers, right? They need to control the situation. They need to make sure everybody's good. They're the people pleasers, and they love to be perfectionists. So they need to do perfectly, right? They need to get everything right. And then we have the reactive protectors, which we call the firefighters. These are the ones who try to distract us from emotional pain reactively. So their style is to be disinhibited, impulsive, and they actually are kind of like socially challenged. They become like the petty tyrants, if you will, the instigators, if you want to call them that. They're the ones who get angry. They might use substances to shut down, or they just might shut down altogether. They're numbing themselves, right? They're binge eating. They're the binge eaters. Uh, and now something that I just want to keep iterating about these parts is that all of them actually belong. So what we're starting to learn is how to start to become curious and compassionate towards these parts instead of seeing them as an enemy. And as we do this, we can start to see that every part can find a rightful place in the system, even if the system appears to be uh, uh, not appropriate. Uh,
A little bit awkward.
yeah, right, right. Okay, questions about this one right here. It's pretty clear, right? Especially most of us who've been learning this a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'm just seeing something that's really cool. It's like bing, light bulb moment on my reactive protectors. Um, they distract from emotional pain
Uh-huh.
actively. Okay. Uh, what I have learned recently as autism is actually these parts managing, because look at that, socially challenged,
Mm-hmm.
impulsive,
Mm-hmm.
having having meltdowns,
Mm-hmm.
and acting out. What does that say? The last thing, something out.
Numbing out, shutting down.
Acting out, shutting down. All of those things I have learned is autism reaction. And
Yeah, I
actually, what you just saw was like ping, ping, ping. This is just a part, and how they react to the trauma and the
yeah.
situation, trying to protect the exiled one,
Uh,
the hurted one.
absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
and then
Yeah.
this part of me that was so deeply wounded, I said, this is the wound that I was not loved, rejected, and despised.
Yep. Yep.
And I perceived that I was not loved and that I had been, and it was a full blown out obvious thing. It was real. And that wound happened when I was 14,
Mm-hmm.
and attacked and rejected by all of my classmates, all of the
Mm-hmm.
girls,
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
very severe wound. And then, I mean, it was like in rapid succession, more wounds were heaped upon into this wound, because
Right.
this wound opened up and it became like a black hole saying, come F me over and hurt me really bad. And everything came in and effed me over and hurt me really bad
Yeah.
for years and years and years of my life. It was just this vicious, I am to be beaten up, wounded, and tormented because I deserve it.
Uh-huh.
You wicked, evil person.
Yeah.
Oh my
Uh,
God. That was my revelation of today, Dylan.
that's some good insight. Yeah, we're gonna go over what you just covered around insight. Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's
And
amazing, Leslie.
and I and I love too that you paired the reactive protectors with the autism because we uh, I have a friend's mentor colleague of mine that has an autistic son, and she could see that our president is autistic because of these same reactive protectors that she sees in her son, that she
100%.
sees in him, and she's kind of mind blown that people can't see he's autistic. And
Yeah.
He's a sick man. He's
and
very
and
much on the spectrum. Yeah.
and I never really pointed out this, but I could definitely see the malignant, narcissistic, psychopath side. But I wouldn't have correlated the autism as part of it. But as she pointed out, especially around these reactive protectors, and I've just seen it in other people with autism as well. I'm like, wow, there might definitely be a common theme around what's going on there. Absolutely. I would even be curious
No
to know
filter.
if that's some form of legacy burden. I don't know, but it would be an interesting thing to go down the rabbit hole with.
what we learned to call generational iniquity. It's passed down in the genetic code from generation to generation. It's just in your bloodline. It started way back here and it just flows downstream to the next people to be born.
Yeah, yeah,
That's interesting, Leslie. My daughters have always told me that I have very strong autistic traits, even though I've never been diagnosed.
Me
I'll say
too.
something, they go, Mum, you're so autistic.
You're so autistic. And it's like, well, that's okay. I'm an artist and that's what we are. Get,
Oh,
we're needed in
I'm
the
on the
world.
spectrum.
Yeah, I'm spicy, baby.
well, I mean, now you guys can see, oh, it's just a part of me that's autistic. Oh, it's a part of me that, does these things.
And it makes so much sense. It
Yeah.
finally, it's like, oh my goodness, that makes sense.
Well,
Yeah.
and
Because the part doesn't know what to do in social situations because it's been so wounded and it's
uh,
trying to protect and keep things from happening to me and overreacting in everything, overreacting.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when we're in a blended state, which they also say when our nervous system's dysregulated. So that's like a neuroscience way of saying this blended state where I am angry, I am broken, I am anxious, I am worthless, I am depressed, right? And we start to see the world through that part, right? That becomes our whole belief system, everything that we're noticing. We see it in other people. We think people are upset with us even if they're not, right? We start to make up
Yeah.
all kinds of things in this blended state, right? And this
Yeah.
is when we think we are that part. And depending on which part we're looking through, that's obviously going to share that narrative for. However, we can now what we're learning is unblend from these, which is, oh, a part of me feels angry. A part of me feels broken or afraid. A part of me believes I'm not enough. A part of me believes I'm autistic, right? And what you can do now from this place is you can see the part, but you're no longer the part, right? You actually become the space, the awareness, the self that's witnessing the part. Which, by the way, this
Dylan,
self
can
is
I just
untouched or untainted. They say, so there's no uh, dysfunction or abnormal thinking around the self. It's like perfectly clear and present. Question? Yeah, you're gonna ask something, Leanne?
um oh, it wasn't really a question. Oh, I guess it's a question.
Uh,
I what I wonder about with this is, as I've said before, back in my day, my mum didn't know what the word hyperlexia means. Like I taught myself to read at 3 years old. I could read newspapers at 4 years old, and mum thought that I just had a good memory until the neighbours were saying, your daughter reads, don't you? But she didn't know what hyperlexia was. She didn't know about any of this stuff.
uh-huh.
And there's a really big thing now, people our age who are actually now being diagnosed with ADHD or this sort of
Mm,
thing. My thing, and I'm wondering about Leslie as well, if I had known 30 years ago that this is how my brain works and this is who I am, would my life have been
right.
different? Um, like people who've been diagnosed now, they go, oh, it explains so much, but then they become that person.
Absolutely.
Like my just been she's very much on the spectrum. She's 16. And when I was speaking to her recently, she said, oh, and I'm autistic.
Uh,
And it was like, now that has become who she is. You could
yeah.
see it. She was out of it, but it was an identity. It was definitely an identity for her.
Absolutely.
And I'm wondering how much I wouldn't have had to muddle through if I'd known a bit more.
But here,
What do they say? If I'd
but
known
here,
then what I
but
know
here's the
now,
here,
my life would have been very
here's the
different.
thing, Leanne. Like what you're learning now is setting up future incarnations to be different. Absolutely. Because you take all this knowledge that you're learning with you, it's going to be imprinted into your soul that is immortal, that actually goes beyond this life, which I actually love too that we're going over immortality with the Gene Key 28. Because that like fits really really perfectly with this soul science that we're really developing, And you're doing this for Georgia too, for your other daughter as well, for their kids too that you might not even meet, right? But then might show up later. So like you're really supporting like so many future and past parts of your offspring just by learning this knowledge and information. Yeah, it's being uploaded in the collective of all of you. Just by doing this here and now, right? Yeah,
And
it's so huge how it ripples.
And I'm finding that I'm changing right now. Since
mm,
Absolutely.
I found out that I was, on the spectrum, it was like, oh, that's what that is. I don't have to do that anymore. Oh, that's
Right?
what that, I don't have to behave like that anymore. I can see what it is and take, yes, our lives would have been different because hopefully we'd have been taught to, like my grandmother, she was so smart. We didn't even know there wasn't a thing of autism. You were a creative person or you were a science person, and we were creatives, our whole family. And she gave me skills to keep busy with my gifting, tactile, like organizing buttons. She'd dump them into a, and every day I'd come over and I'd reorganize a button. She'd dump them all in a big bowl and
Mm,
say, organize them this way. And
hmm.
she gave me skills
Right.
that helped me be able to function well, even though I was, spectrumy. And
Absolutely.
if you knew yourself, you could develop those skills young. So we could pass that on to the next generation,
Yep.
even our friends. It doesn't even have to
Absolutely.
be, like he said at the beginning, we're going to teach others
Yep.
this that we learn.
Yep.
mm.
Absolutely. It ripples out. Yeah. It
So
expands so far you have no idea. Like we really can't even wrap our minds around how far it is. Like I barely can wrap my mind around how far it is.
so Ty, who's was diagnosed with autism last year or the year before, and ADHD and everything. When he says I'm autistic or I have autism, do I say a part of you has it and not all of you? Or
I mean, it's interesting because as you practice the model within yourself, you will naturally see how to insert it,
okay,
right? Uh, I totally would, but if he's not open to something like that, we're gonna get into how you can still work with parts without talking about parts language.
mm,
So we'll see how sometimes we hit roadblocks when we use that specific kind of languaging. So I have a slide for that we'll get to. But something that's important to know is that the awareness is what creates enough space for the self to actually lead and show up. That's really what we're learning in this blending unblending is how to pause when we're blended, have the awareness to start to be unblended, and then start to let the self lead. So that way, when we start to recognize these burdens, right, we can establish a relationship in such a way to begin unburdening, right? But we'll talk about how to unburden in a second, right? Because what's important about these burdens, and this is where it gets a little tricky too, is that we notice the burdens are carried by the parts, but sometimes we mistake the burden for the part. And this is an important thing to recognize because a burden's not who you are, and a burden is something a part is carrying that needs support to unburden, which is a lot of what we're going to focus on later in the later slides per Tanya's request. Well, and Leslie's apparently.
mhm,
Right, but we notice that at first these protector parts they take on these heavy loads or burdens to keep us safe, right? And then over time we start to realize that these burdens become heavy and very limiting of our freedom and our connection and our joy and all the things that we're actually trying to create in our lives, right? So our work isn't to get rid of the part, it's to help the part release the burdens that it's been carrying so it doesn't have to carry it alone anymore, which we'll hear a lot from the exiles, right? They feel like they have to carry everything alone, right? So a burden may look like a painful belief. It could be like I'm unlovable. It could be I'm not enough, right? It could be any of these painful beliefs. They could be intense emotions like shame or rage or terror, which if you have autism or the reactive protector parts, there's a lot of rage up in there, right? they just have intense emotions. Like that's just what they're carrying, right? They're not bad and wrong for it. It's just how they've been taught to hold the burdens, right? And this might distress the body where we feel tightness or numbness, which Leanne talks about often, or we might even just collapse, right? Where it's just like we completely shut down. Uh, these are just how some of the parts carry the burdens, or we might replay past situations, or like think over conversations and how we would say something to someone, or we might look for the other shoe to drop, right? We might be expecting pain, even though there might not be any pain, right? So that's where like our memories become burdened, our patterns could become burdened, uh, and then the behaviors and the roles can become burdened, where we tend to people please or control or withdraw or have the perfectionism, right? And all we're just noticing that as we are recognizing these burdens is that we're noticing the healing isn't about destroying the part, it's just helping the part release what it's been carrying, so then it can have a new role or become unburdened and have a new goal, which again I have slides later on that we'll go into. Can we please add spectromy to our vocabulary? Yeah, absolutely, that sounds great. Leslie says I have a part that carries anger, rage, wrath, malice, murder. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and those could be even separate parts. They might not be all one part. It could be, but they could also be separate parts carrying separate parts of those. Absolutely.
It also an example like yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I was fine and doing stuff, and then all of a sudden I got annoyed. I don't remember if I had the thought before, but I just felt like I was angry. And I'm like, why am I angry? Like, why are you angry? Like, Tanya,
When you say you got annoyed and you got angry, you mean a part of you got annoyed and a
a
part of you
part
got
of
angry.
me. Yeah. And I'm like, wait, why are you angry? Like, talk to me. Like, and then I'm like, okay, we're allowed to be angry, right? So I'm gonna, go with it, but why? Like, it just, I didn't know where that came from.
Yeah, and it's beautiful that you're just tracking it and noticing it, because these are the different ways on how burdens show up. They show up in our mind, they show up in our heart, they show up in our bodies, right?
Mm.
Like I know with Leanne, for instance, she might not hear the belief so much about a burdened part, but I know, and also the emotion, she might not feel that so much, but she could feel in her body, right? So far, like just tracking Leanne, like she's been really good with tracking the body. Maybe not so much about the emotions and beliefs, but you can see they're starting to open up now, right? They're starting to show themselves. You're starting to listen, and parts are starting to feel more safe and nurtured, right? Because they could show up in a whole range of these ways. That's why we kind of went over the 5 channels of awareness first, that model. So that way we can actually see all the different ways they communicate, because it might not be a verbal thing, right? Which we'll go over in another slide about how different parts speak to us.
Um, I just wanted to say, Tanya, that happened to me the other day, about 3 days ago. I was in a foul mood, like a really foul mood, and I couldn't work out where it was coming from, who I was angry at. I mean, I live alone, I don't have a partner. Like, who the hell am I angry at? Um, and it took me a while to sort of come to terms with the fact I was angry. It was after that that I realized I'd been swearing at myself all morning. Didn't realize until about two
Yeah,
hours later,
yeah.
because my hands were mucking up. I can't make a fist, and I kept dropping things. Oh, you stupid bitch! I was going, for fuck's sake, get your shit together. I was in such a bad mood, but I couldn't work out where it had come from. It just appeared.
Yep,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yep.
hear that. I totally hear that.
yeah.
And what I've learned from Dylan is I asked that part, what's your name, sweetie? How
Mm-hmm,
old are you?
mm-hmm.
That's
What's
what I
what's
should have done.
what's wrong, honey? You'll get used to it. You will get used to
Yeah,
it and you'll start doing it where it'll
doing it.
just be an automatic response, because right now you're learning to see it and you're recognizing there it, oh, that's somebody trying to tell me a story. They're trying to
I
tell me
was
their
very
story.
surprised.
I
Yeah, when
know.
I realized what I'd done.
Well,
Yeah. I'm
this
Yeah,
is called insight, right? A part of you had
yeah.
done, right? This is called insight, where you're learning how to communicate with your own inner world, right? And they could come through our thoughts, our emotions, our images, our sensations, the way that we even carry our body, it could even show up in, right? Our posture. And the self is becoming aware of all of this. It's starting to notice all of this stuff that's happening inside and around us. So you even waiting or taking the couple of hours to notice it, the fact that you notice it is incredible. That's what we're celebrating, is that you noticed it. Not so much how long it took. You know, you could use that as a measurement where maybe next time it's 15 minutes instead of 3 hours, right? But that's just seeing how much faster you're learning to notice, and it's a way to see where you are, not who you are, right? So no shouldas, right? Because this insights is actually important part of the process. And notice too that we can't force insights. We can't force answers. It's really just about how we become aware and then how we become curious about it, right? Where we turn towards our inward experience, and we do it with interest versus judgment, which is really difficult when we have a part of us that's judging everything, right? Because then we can see, oh, I'm blended in that state. So we take a pause, we get unblended, then we can start to listen to this judgmental part and be like, wow, I noticed, you were judgmental about X, Y, and Z. Like, thank you so much for sharing that with me, right? Is there anything else you want to share about that? Anything else that you felt was just, judgment, something that you want to criticize, or something that was unfair, right? And you just start to get curious and listen to this as you start to be able to create the space and to hear what the part has to say, right? The part will start to trust you. This part will start to feel seen, and she'll be like, oh, like she's not going to reject me if I share my criticisms, right? I feel heard, right? It's like, oh, I'm no longer alone in this judgment, right? I'm no longer alone in this unfair thing that I'm noticing, right? And then as this relationship starts to become formed, it actually starts to transform as well. The connection will start to transform the protection into a partnership. And this is how all insight turns into. It's how all listening and learning how to listen turns into, which I have a step-by-step practice actually in the next slide. If any questions about this one first. But the next one's literally, it's called the U-turn. It's a really great step-by-step way of how to do this. But you already described the process, Leanne, so it's just got to highlight what you just described earlier.
But when you guys say, how old are you and all that sort of thing, and I think I mentioned it to you and Heather before, I don't
Uh,
remember really much childhood. I couldn't say what happened at age 10 or anything like that. It doesn't really matter though, does it? Because it's still coming up regardless of,
yeah,
okay, great. Yeah,
yeah. We'll
yeah.
we'll go over why it doesn't matter. Yeah, we'll go over
Okay,
why it
thank
doesn't
you.
matter because there's still great information you can get. We're gonna show you how to access that information.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. You're so welcome. But any questions about this right here, the insight, how we start to get insight, and this is like everyone's here asking, how do we unburden? Well, we have to unblend first. That's why we talked about that first, right? This is the first step. Everybody has to unblend, and then we get this insight on how to build a relationship and trust with the part. As soon as this trust and this relationship is built with the part, then we can start unblending, right? But we're going to talk about why some parts won't go straight to this unburdening process, and we're going to talk about how to start leaning back inward so we can actually unburden, right? So this is the path back to awareness. When we become reactive, meaning, right, something happens and that knee-jerk reaction of I need to control or be right or people please or look good or, right, whatever it is, right, whatever might be popping up, as soon as this shows up, this U-turn is what helps us pause. And the first thing is as we pause, we then go inwards, we go inside. And this is always how we come from a reaction, a disconnection, back to a connection. This is always the pathway. It doesn't matter what kind of this disconnection it looks like or it appears as, this is always the path. And we just notice the reactivity. We pause, we notice reactivity, we notice the thoughts in that reaction, We notice our feelings. We notice our sensations. Maybe we're noticing, I don't know what the heck they are in this moment. That's okay too, right? But then we just inquire about them. We say, what does this reactive part need right now? What does this part say inside right now? Right? We're just seeing what this part is reacting to and what it's sharing in its reaction. And we inquire. And then we can invite the reactive part to partner with us. We can invite it into our curiosity. Oh, that's an interesting thing that you're reacting to. Tell me more about that. Right? We can ask the part to maybe take a step back if it's like so much that's happening. Right? Maybe like, hey, let's just take a step back for a moment. Oh, Leanne said beautiful slides. Thank you. And we can ask
Oh,
who it is, like what Leslie was sharing, who it is and who it protects.
are- which number are you doing from?
Right now I'm in 3.
That's what I thought. Okay, because I was looking at 4 also, and I had a question, but I'll wait till you get there.
And really what we're doing in this invitation is we're listening. We're listening, we're validating. Oh, that's interesting that you're afraid about that part or that situation that happened. Can you tell me more about that? Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I appreciate that you feel comfortable sharing that with me. Right? We just send gratitude, appreciation, and thanks to these parts for sharing. We never condemn them. We never analyze them. We never question, oh, are you sure that's how you really felt? Nope, we don't do any of that stuff. We just say, thank you so much, and just mirror back to them. Thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you for allowing me to know that about you. Is there anything else I can know about you that you'd like to share? And then this is where we like include these parts to partner with us. But this one right here is interesting because sometimes we're in relationships with people who trigger us or who have activations with us. And what we can notice is we can ask this person to kind of witness us in this process of this U-turn, right? So maybe like, I don't know, maybe something Leslie said triggered me, and I might invite Leslie to with me in this U-turn that I'm doing. I had a part that came up for me around what she had said, and I might invite her just to witness me as I go and be with this part, right? And kind of share, what's going on with this part. And what's important about this, because a lot of conflicts that come up in relationships is we always want to blame and point to them, but this allows us to actually see what occurred in me around this situation. Right? Like what came up for me, like what my part started to tell me in this moment on why it was triggering or why what you said had activated this part. Right? And maybe it was a behavior. Maybe it was nothing that Leslie said. Maybe everything she said was great, but maybe she did a certain gesture that like triggered me or made me feel unsafe even, right? And then that's what my part would be sharing with her is like, hey, like this, when you did this, I had this fear come over me, and it reminded me of when my dad would, whatever, and you just can kind of just unburden and really just share what's going on here, right? What's going on with these parts. This is good we can do it ourselves, or like I said, with the partner that actually activated us, especially if it's someone that we know is really, wanting to hold us, or we can hold them. Someone that we know is really a safe space to be with. Right? Obviously, I wouldn't say do this with somebody who's not a safe space. Right? Go find a safe space and do that with. But it's really this simple steps of how to make this U-turn and not make it about blame. Right? It's just about understanding, and it's about connection, actually. So I would be doing this with Leslie literally to deepen our connection, because that reaction is going to have me feel disconnected to Leslie. and then I might hold on to it and harbor it and it might accumulate until at some point a part of me blows up on Leslie or something, right? Instead of just like having this moment where we could, just be with that part so it doesn't accumulate into something else.
I have this very thing happening in my brain right now. There is a manner of speech that triggers me to no end. Nobody in this room does it, but there
Mm,
is one person in one of the meetings I go to. Every time she says anything,
mhm,
it triggers that spot in me that says, I can't listen to you. Shut up.
mhm,
And
mhm.
I don't want to even be in the group anymore because this person talks. Because I can't, it's nothing she's doing wrong. That's the
Right.
whole thing. She is not doing anything wrong, but it triggers me so much to hear
Hmm.
her speak that I feel safer if I just walk out of the room until she's finished talking and then come back.
Yep.
It's like, I just can't listen, and I don't know how to deal with that, because that what you're saying is that's a part of me that is triggered by that style of delivery of communication.
Yeah,
And that,
and until you go inwards and talk with this part, you won't know why.
wow, I need to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'm gonna share this whole thing with you. You can print this out. More slides for you to have in your toolkit. Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
Leslie. The second anyone says the word whatever around me, that's one of my biggest triggers.
Oh,
Whatever.
Yep.
yeah.
Ooh. I'll
Yeah.
Well,
come outside and I'll fight you.
yeah. Well, here's a good practice to do. Mama Bear says she can relate a lot to what you're sharing, Leslie.
So number four, Dylan, um,
Or, mm-hmm.
um, so you invite is are we talking about inviting your a part of you to come together with yourself too, or is it another person only?
It could be both. It could be a part of you, or it could be another person that had triggered you. Yeah.
Okay.
Because maybe it was another part of you that triggered another part. That's possible.
That's what I was wondering. Is can it be like
Yeah.
another part triggers another part?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a twofold U-turn. It's anything that makes you reactive, and if it was another person, you can invite this person to kind of hold you while you do this inner process, right? Or if it's an inner part that did it, you could do it with your inner part as well and invite that part to hold you and your other part. And we're going to go into a little bit more about polarizations of parts and right and why they won't talk and like all this good stuff onto how to pretty much just go deeper into listening with these parts, right, because there's a lot of nuanced things about this. It's super simple, right, but there's a lot of intricacies and imaginative ways that you can go about this practice.
It does it feel like when the two parts are arguing, like there's two children arguing with each other kind of thing? Or
Yes, and it's like a tug of war they're having, which I have a slide for. We'll get into it.
oh, cool.
Leslie, you have a question? I saw your hand went up. You're muted.
A
There you
statement,
go.
not a question.
Statement.
You know me, I'm a statement girl. It's like a bing that goes off in my head. It's uh oh darn, I hate it when that happens. Come back, Marie. Never mind, it jumped off the train track. It may come back and it may not. So
Yeah, maybe it'll make a U-turn.
yeah, it had to do with number four. Go back, flip, and see number four. Uh,
Where it's talking about inviting a partner who said or did something triggering to you, or another part, and to do this U-turn with.
yeah, whether it's a part in me or a person that are
Right.
arguing amongst themselves. Uh,
Correct.
it's like, okay, I often say to myself, who's upset? And what are you upset about?
Hmm.
Because I hear all that yak, 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 yak going on in your head, like Leanne was saying, all that crash curse wording and stuff. It's like, okay, who's mad? Who is this that is so pissed off? What are you pissed off about?
Hmm. Hmm. Yep. Yeah, and
That
this
was
is the steps.
the
You go inside, you listen without judgment, you go be curious, and then you validate everything that that part is trying to protect or trying to hold. Because the thing about each of these parts, they all have a fear that they're protecting our hearts from. And as soon as we can validate what it's protecting and we can unburden it, boom, we return back to this deeper connection in ourselves. And that's what every activation, every trigger is actually revealing in us, is how to go back inside and how to go retrieve this wisdom that's literally sitting inside of ourselves, which no one else can do for us. We really want other people to do this for us, which we just can't. There's some things we get to do with other people, which is a huge joy, but there's other things that we get to do with ourselves. And it's a twofold uh, process. So when parts don't want to talk with us, this is what we call as understanding what's called direct access. And you guys have already witnessed me do this, or you've already experienced this, me doing this with you, which will go into the different types of, uh, or we'll go into the difference between like an insight and direct access, right? And we'll compare and contrast them, right? But this direct access, sometimes these protectors, they won't separate enough. We won't be able to unblend them enough to be able to hear the inner dialogue. We're like so consumed by the inner dialogue that instead of arguing with it, we can start to become curious and to acknowledge and to validate them, where eventually they actually soften. And this direct access, why it works is because if the protector is trying to keep us safe, right, they're acting from this place of fear. This direct access is like a way of coming in with this place of safety and understanding. And it's the safety that actually allows the part to unblend, where you can then start to cooperate with this part. And the cooperation is really where the healing starts to unfold itself. And there's different ways of direct access and how to meet a protector. It's called explicit and implicit, which I have another slide for. We'll go into if no questions about this. Okay, no questions. So as we notice with this direct access, it's starting to build this relational experience with our inward spaces, where we can really communicate with a support and trusted guide. So this is where I'm sharing with you guys that some of your parts, if I started talking about a part, you could see are so blended that I'm just using direct access to actually start to unblend them. And it's where I'm speaking directly to the part. And as I'm speaking directly to the part, I'm doing it in a couple ways, which I don't think you guys see me. Yeah, let me see actually. I think you guys saw me more. Actually, you saw me do both, the explicit and explicit, where I might have named the part for you and pointed it out and brought into highlight or awareness for you, which helped unblend. Or I might have just spoke directly to that part without actually pointing out the part, right? And this is where we start to see that direct access from a trusted guide really helps us communicate with these parts, so we can start to do this with parts as well, right? So it's like a practice that we're starting to learn, which is called the insight, where the self can speak with the part, versus direct access, where a guide is helping us pretty much cultivate this self-led experience, right? Or what they call is the self-energy. Another term they use in the somatics, which you guys are familiar with, is somatic awareness, right? We're talking about with the 5 channels of awareness. And the somatic awareness is just checking in with your body of what emotion am I feeling, what sensation am I feeling, and where is this emotion and sensation in my body? And we've already talked about most of us live from the neck up, so most of us are not even aware of how to do that, right? And this is kind of that first step of how to even acknowledge these parts, right? Which is really what we're doing with the direct access. But now I'm just showing you how to do it yourselves, right? Which is where this insight comes from, which I'm pretty sure everybody here on the call has had an insight already. Angela's newer to the model, so we'll hear Angela's probably next week, her insight. But everybody else here on the call has already experienced this, right? So now we're just giving terminologies to something that we've already experienced. But this insight is where it's like an internal communication that you're doing within versus the direct access is this relational that you're cultivating with somebody outside of you. And when you have the insight, you're always being self-led, meaning you're present with your part. So this requires what they call enough self-energy, which is usually when we're calm, we're clear, and we have the capacity to be with these parts. Obviously, sometimes we don't have the capacity to be with these parts, and that's where we muster up the capacity for them. Right, but this insight, we are actually aware of where our nervous system is gonna, like, it just can't tolerate it anymore, and then where our nervous system's actually in a good equilibrium, right? So we actually have this what's called the window of tolerance or the window of presence that we're always actually aware of. We know what will kick us out, and we also know like where our threshold's at. But also too, partly what we're learning is how to meet our edge, the edge of where our window of tolerance is, so that way we can sit there. And as we sit there, that's where this purge facilitates. And then our window of tolerance or window of presence expands, meaning we can now become more resilient. We can bear more things that are unbearable. We can digest things that haven't been processed, right? And people are like, how the hell are you dealing with that in that way? And you'll just see your resilience level will just keep expanding in this way. Things that triggered you before no longer trigger you anymore. And this is where like that awareness comes in, where you can start to notice and unblend from things and listen from the self, right? Really allow the insight of being self-led. And obviously it deepens over time, right? So as you strengthen this inner relationship and inner trust within yourself, you start to realize self-leadership becomes very easy and effortless. And then, I mean, as most of you have been saying, you're like, man, if I've only learned this when I was younger, right? But usually when we're in the direct access with somebody, this is when we're overwhelmed, and this person is a guide to help us with the overwhelm. So they create space for yourself to stay connected, right? And they allow you to move through these parts that are strongly blended when your self energy feels low. This is also too when people are in an entheogenic ceremony and they did a large dose where the veils of everything's collapsed and they're just like, what the heck is going on? This is kind of the role of the guide. The guide kind of sits there and it lets all your parts know that, hey, we're going through some interdimensional spaces, but it's gonna be good for you. We're gonna learn some good stuff, you know, right? So the guide helps the parts feel seen, heard, and safe as they're moving through overwhelm, places that maybe don't feel so safe.
So who is the guide exactly? The guide?
So the guide would, like in this case, I was sharing like when I was talking with some of your parts that you didn't have access to. You thought you were like blended into them. I was that guide in that moment, right? I was
Yes.
either pointing out the part or I
Mhm.
was supporting you unblend the strong emotions with the part.
Yes, I remember.
Right. And then now that I'm, you have that experience as a direct access, you could actually be that for somebody else, right? And this
Mhm.
is like it opens the way to create more safety and separation from the overwhelm, so then insight can actually start to emerge.
What happens when you see, well, when you see someone having like an angry part? And you're trying to talk to that part, like
Uh,
without that person knowing, right? Kind of thing, because they don't understand.
yeah, we're going to talk about that in the next one,
Oh,
actually. The
great.
next
I'm
one.
like, I'm ahead a couple times.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. It's so funny because like your guys' questions are like right on point with these slides, and I just made them today, so
They're
it's really
awesome. The
awesome.
slides, I was staring at the slides like, oh my God, I'm putting this on my computer.
Yeah, I'll make sure you guys have these.
These are great.
Okay, so these are the two ways to meet a protector through direct access. And every part wants to be understood before it can actually let go. So that's where I was sharing with Leslie, this woman who triggers her based off of whatever it is that she's expressing. Leslie won't get to actually let that part of Leslie won't be able to let this go until the self of Leslie understands, right? And there's different ways on how we can do it, which the explicit way is direct and clear. So this is where you kind of name it gently, where you're like, oh, I notice a part that's trying to protect, right? So like Tanya, you asked about with your son, you could try that on. Like, hey, I notice a part is trying to protect, and just see what he says, see how he responds, right? And then you
Okay.
can ask permission. You like, would it be okay if we talked together? So notice what just happened there. I notice a part is trying to protect, and this is actually talking to the part. Would it be okay if we talked together?
What if he's like, what part? Like, what if he asks me, like, what do you mean? Or what part? Or,
Well, then if he says what part, right? So obviously he's not good with the language. You can jump over to implicit, where it's gentle and intuitive, and you could say it sounds like something inside is worried or stressed or angry or upset or agitated or right. What fill in the blank,
that's so
right?
good. Yeah.
And then whatever he says, you could be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. You just validate his feelings. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. You don't say, oh, that's just a part of you. You shouldn't be too worried about it. Right? No, no. You validate the part, even though he might not know that it's a part. You do. And this is how you can access direct access to work with this part, even though he might not know the languaging. Right? And on the explicit, right, you just listen with respect, and you'll just say, like, whatever it's trying to protect, you just say, what are you afraid would happen? So you're like leaning into this part's fear, and you're really exploring and building trust with this part, so it can actually share with you what it's afraid of, right? And do it in this place of safety and openness. So the explicit side, direct and clear, is best for parts who are willing to acknowledge their role, right? But like what Tanya's sharing, well, what if he's like, oh, well, what part, right? So in the implicit side is best for parts who resist parts language or are not ready to engage directly. Different language, same exact intention. And all we're doing is just being curious so we can create connection.
So good.
When I was first introduced to this parts language, I was very offended
Mm.
because I it was like, I'm not parts. You know, what the hell are you saying about me? Because I come from mental illness is in my family line. And so it's like, no, I don't have parts. I don't have mental illness. Everybody else in my family may, but I'm not a crazy person.
Yeah.
And but I am a crazy person who has a lots of parts, a nutcase, and it's okay. I still like me.
Yeah, it's funny because if we were all to be diagnosed, which is why I love the IFS model so much, it's non-pathology. It doesn't pathologize these parts, because if we were to go to and get diagnosed, we would be diagnosed as DID, dissociative identity disorder, which used to be called multiple personality disorder.
I thought
So
I had
every single one of us would be labeled that, if that were to actually be, if this were actually to be in a pathologizing way. That's how a lot of shrinks would diagnose us. Absolutely. Right. And that's where too, I really love this model because it's so useful for everybody, no matter where they fall on the DSM diagnostic spectrum. Right. This is so universal for anybody to start working with themselves and not be shameful about whatever label they've been labeled. Right? They can be like, oh, it's just a place of awareness. It's where I am, not who I am. Right? We can start to detach from our identity around these pathologizing diagnoses, and we can start to use them as stepping stones into awareness of learning more about who we truly are, which we are beyond. We can go beyond these diagnosis, ailments, right? We're more than that, right? That's just a part of us.
That feels so freeing to know that it's not who we are, like all of us, it's parts of us. Like, because we've, like you said, we created this identity of these false things.
Yeah, and we don't go
Self-protection.
into it in this lecture, but in some of our other soul science lectures, we go into the whole rabbit hole of history and why these parts have actually showed up through the legacy burdens, and that's like a whole other teaching we'll go into when we start to go down legacy burdens. Because we'll see, this has been going on for a hot minute in humanity. This is actually the fall of humanity, what we're talking about here. And we're also talking about the redemption of humanity all in one model. Yeah, which too, I don't know if you guys noticed, Deneen doesn't like these parts conversation. She was always like, "Oh, I always see myself as whole and united and as one," and that's true. That's actually the self. So there's a huge truth to that, and we do also notice these parts that are playing out as well with the self, which the course just calls the ego, by the way.
I was just going to say that she could look at it as the ego.
Yeah, it's the belief in separation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which these parts do believe that when they're burdened, but notice that when we start to learn how to connect with them and befriend them, we can start to unburden them and they don't act out in that way. They have a very different response, which I have slides for that. We'll keep scrolling and get to them.
Yeah, I truly believe they want to be loved also.
So again, I know we wanted to talk about the unburdening process. Why I'm spending so much time going over all of this is because we have to befriend before we can lead the unburdening process. This is so important. We have to establish a relationship with these parts before they can unburden. And again, I have another slide. We'll go over the difference between an insight that brings relief and then an insight that unburdens, which are two distinct parts of the process. Right? But as we're befriending these parts, right, we're noticing, okay, I have to see the protectors not as enemy, right? Because they're keeping us safe, and this is just how they've learned how to do it. So when we get curious and we lean in with this self, right, self energy, we learn how to access this self and unblend. We can learn how to be compassionate with what are they protecting. We get curious with what are they afraid would happen if they stopped protecting, which is like a really juicy conversation to have with your parts. What are you afraid would happen if you stopped protecting, blah, 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 right? So what are you protecting gives you great insight for what are you afraid would happen if you stopped doing that. Because we're just trying to learn the fears of these parts. Every part has a fear. Every part has a fear. And then you just ask them, what do you need me to understand about this fear that you've been carrying? What do you need me to understand about the stories that nobody wanted to hear from you? What did you want me to understand about the way that dad treated you? Or the way that mom never, looked at you? Right? You just get to understand all the fears and the things that they're carrying and just ask them, how long have you been carrying this? Like, is this where it picked up, or did it go even before that? And that's where Tanya was like, well, what if a part tells me it was in a past life? You track that bad boy into that past life. And you say, well, you show me the timeline. Like, when did this happen? What happened in that life? Right? Who murdered who? Right? You ask insights. You let it know. You let it carry you to the origins of where it's living. Notice what I said. The origins of where it's living. It's somewhere in the past that then you could ask, do you want to come in this present moment with me? This past sucks. You want to come here now with me in this moment?
Mm.
What would help you feel safe to come into this here and now with me?
Can you ever find that out during ceremony? Like, do they talk to you?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely. It happens all the time. I would say that's why most people are using ceremony for this reasoning, right? there's obviously like a therapeutic side to it, but what we're learning is that there's also so much more sacredness that's beyond the therapeutic side. So it's like, yes, we're doing some trauma treatment and healing some wounds, but then there's like this whole celebratory side of just recognizing who we truly are, which is when we've become healed, right? We have glimmers of our healed self. There's just this infinite joy and bliss and peace and love, and all the yummy stuff just starts to show up in those places. But this comes from this process of healing these fragmented parts and coming back to this wholeness, remembering this wholeness, living from this wholeness, which is actually like always inside of us. We haven't forgotten it. It's just we're uncovering it. We're like removing all of the stuff that's been hiding it, if you will. So when you befriend these parts, they feel seen, they never feel threatened. They feel like they can relax and start to soften in your presence. And they open up and they share. They share their burdens, they share all their stories. They're like your best friend just waiting for you to come inside and befriend them. And then this trust starts to grow. Once the trust grows, self then can lead to continue unburdening. So notice what it says. This is connection before correction. We understand before change. Questions about this part? The befriend part? It's really important to healing protectors. And then we can get to the exiles. So when protectors soften, we go from defense to trust. And then they start to learn, because this is one of the biggest problems that a protector has. If I stop protecting, you won't need me anymore. And what they actually start to learn is that once they feel safe, that they're not going anywhere, they will open up a new partnership with you. They will literally transmute from protecting to partnership. But right now in the protection mode, right, they feel unsafe. A protector feels unsafe in their protection. So they're always on guard. They're always scanning for danger. They're always scanning for potential threats. They'll make up a threat even if one doesn't exist. They have to be in control and react. They try to manage everything. They try to manage other people. They love to be micromanagers. They love to isolate, and they're the ultimate judge, right? They push people away just so they can avoid being hurt. Yeah, they're really, really clever in that way. And when they're protecting, they're carrying these heavy burdens where it believes it must do everything alone to keep you safe. And this is why they don't disappear, because they feel alone and they feel unsafe. And yet they're trying to keep the safety. It's kind of paradoxical, these parts. They're always exhausted and they're always tense. They're stuck in fear, worry, and they have a constant vigilance of survival. Now, when we can start to bridge the safety with these parts and unblend from them, this is when, we're able to start building this relationship with them and build this trust with them, where the protectors will start to feel safe. And when they feel safe, they can relax and they can trust. They know that others will be there to help them, whether it's an other of yourself, resource, self energy within yourself, or whether it's someone outside of you, right? They know, these protectors know that someone will come and be there for them. They collaborate with other parts. So once they become in a partnership and self-led, these parts will start working with other parts instead of controlling them. because we'll see some parts control parts, some parts judge parts, some parts ridicule other parts, some parts keep other parts at certain arm's length, right? And we'll start to notice that these parts will then start to collaborate with one another, where they'll allow to be close with one another and connect with one another and include each other instead of feeling this uh, disgust for them. And they'll start to share the load. They'll start to unburden these other parts by carrying some of it for them. Because they'll start to see, wow, this part's carrying so much. One part will notice to another part, that part's carrying so much. You don't have to carry this alone. Let me help you out. But you can assign these to some of these protector roles. You can ask them, do you want to help other parts become unburdened? They're so excited to take on these roles. They're like, wow, you mean I don't have to micromanage anymore and I can go and help other parts? They're so happy to take on these roles when they become unburdened. And you create this partnership with them. So much energy becomes freed up. And so much creativity and joy starts to surge through you when these parts become unburdened. Again, they don't disappear, they just take on new roles. And this is where the trust starts to turn the protection of these parts into freedom. And we start to experience a liberation in this integrated system. Questions about this slide here?
This is really helpful because I didn't know, until this that the protectors don't need to disappear. They need to feel safe that they are also parts. And
Yeah,
I
and
didn't know
they
that.
need to be reminded that often too.
Yeah, because they're really scared. I think
Uh-huh.
they're as scared or more scared than the exile is.
Absolutely. They all parts have their fears. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yep.
Because they really want to help the exile, but they don't know how. And this is what they're trying to do. That's incredible.
Absolutely. Yep. Any questions about this slide here? I didn't realize how many extra notes I made, so I don't know if we're gonna get to the unburdening parts unless you guys are okay going a little bit later. But I'm just noticing the time right now.
I'm
Yeah.
totally cool. I'm cool going later.
And I'm already late for my second class. I totally missed it 23 minutes ago.
Well, it's recorded, so you can definitely come back and check it out.
Okay. Thanks. Love y'all.
Yeah.
Love
Thanks
you.
for being
So
here.
good. So
Love
good.
Yeah.
you. Totally.
Last call for questions on this slide here. Any questions or comments before we move on?
Um, the fear protection when it control and react tries to manage everything. That's very I really resonate with that. Yeah. That's
And notice how these are like complete opposite, diametrically opposed perspectives of parts. Seeing them as an enemy versus seeing them as something that's actually supportive, right?
I think I always saw them as enemies. That was my problem.
Thanks for being here, Mama Bear. So you gotta jump off. Love you
Oh,
too.
bye, Mama Bear.
I hope parts helped you out. The parts work.
That's what I think it was. I always saw them as enemies. I was uncomfortable. These part I didn't know they were more parts. I just felt like it was me. Just I was identifying every single part with me. If I was annoyed, what I was annoyed. I didn't like it. I didn't like the feeling. I don't like to be part of it. I let me run away from it. Let me find everything to do to numb myself from it. And I was ignoring every part. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
mhm.
I relate. I relate.
Yep, ignoring it. And even now, I think I have so many parts that I build around. When I got sick with the autoimmune, I got so afraid because I was in a job, as you know, that pushed me so hard. I didn't know if I was gonna. I had to change my diet, or strictly like so I can function and be able to do all the clients that they pushed me to do when I was sick, which people that are not sick can't even do as many. It's tiring, and I was so felt so much fear and so much like I was like, oh, I can't eat this or I won't be able to function tomorrow. Or I can't really, I built so much rigid rules around everything and so many parts. And now I'm still trying to like you know, peel little bit by layer. Like it's okay. We're not at a job. Like you can eat and if you eat, am I gonna feel this way if I eat? All those fears still are in me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you get to have a lot of do-overs with these parts.
Yeah, and I still get scared. I'm like, so, one of the guys, medical median says, eggs, don't eat eggs. It will call, it's bad for the Epstein Barr of what I have. And so I decided to have an egg for the first time in 3 years. And I was scared a little bit. I used to eat them every day. And then I had it 2 days ago and I'm like, am I going to feel this? Am I going to feel that? It was a part that was scared because there was so much protection
Yeah.
and I don't even know. Sometimes if I ate, I try to think an egg not long, like 2 years ago, but I think another part is saying I would feel bad 2 days later, justifying it. Like you see, you don't feel too good. So I didn't know if I was actually manifesting it or if it was the truth. There was so many parts.
It's messy business when we do parts work.
Holy crap!
Yeah. Especially as we start to build relations with some parts, it's like other parts want to come to the surface and start to get some love on too, you know? So
Oh
it's definitely a normal thing for all stuff like that to pop up.
yeah, and I just find myself like, oh my god. And I feel bad. I might have hurt all the parts when I'm like, I just want some freedom, some
Now,
peace.
this is the mantra of how to work with parts all the time. It's called the
Yeah.
do-over. And this is a new moment, new experience all the time. You reset, release, and renew. So every moment is an invitation to begin again. So like
Mm,
even Leanne earlier on the call was kind of doing this. She was like, "Oh, I should have done this and should have done that," and we're like, "No, no, no, no." Right here, this is kind of what we're highlighting with her is this do-over, where it's a new moment, new experience. You didn't take a step back. You're stepping into alignment now that you could be aware of those things, right? And what we're learning in those moments, the shoulds, right? We're learning how to release those with compassion. And we're learning how to just notice, oh, that didn't work during that time period, right? We're just learning, okay, that didn't work. Let me let it go. I did the best with what I know. I did the best with what I knew in the moment. I have this new insight from the hindsight, from reflecting on the hindsight. I have this new insight for foresight on how to do things in the future, right? And we just forgive ourselves. Oh, I didn't know any better before. There's no need to be shameful about it, right? We're just giving ourselves infinite patience and compassion, so we can literally free ourselves from that moment and have the unfolding to keep unfolding, right? So it's like we close that chapter of the shoulds of, oh yeah, I should have done that. We close that chapter, and we don't like carry it with us moving forward, right? When we're forgiving, we're letting it stay in the past. The past stays in the past. The present stays in the present, and the future stays in the future, right? And it's new moment, new experience every time, right? This is literally the art of learning or becoming a joyful learner, right? And we just take a breath and we just notice, oh, I'm safe, I'm present, nothing really bad happened. Okay, like this is awesome. Now let's choose a new way of doing things, right? Like how do you want to move forward, right?
yeah, that's totally. And my older son, he has a habit of also saying, I should have done this, I should have done that, which I do too. And I'm not gonna lie, but I always tell him, don't should all over yourself. Stop shoulding. Instead of shitting, I always say, stop shoulding all over yourself.
Right.
But that remind me of that when you were saying that before.
Yeah, and instead of shooting, what are we learning to do?
Be compassionate and kind.
Yeah, that's one way that we're gonna stop this shitting. But what else are we doing? If I should have done this and I should have done that, what are we doing instead?
Doing it.
Yeah, we're taking the insight and we're
Oh,
applying it. We're doing it now in the moment. Absolutely. Yeah. How do I want to do things moving forward? Right?
yeah.
I hate
Instead
it
of,
when
oh,
you ask really simple questions. I get confused.
yeah, but
Because
you
it's too
answered it.
easy.
Yeah, you answered it. Yeah, you got it right.
So good,
Oh,
man.
Lordy.
But that shows you're present and you're paying attention.
It's like, thank God, Leanne. Come on.
Yeah.
Um, I just wanted to say with the close the chapter and take a breath, you are safe. I've it's coming up. I've got about 4 weeks before I have to leave this home of 10 years, and I'm okay until I think about actually getting in the vehicle and driving away. Right.
Mm,
And then I start to get really emotional. I was doing it last night. I was starting to get really emotional, and I actually said, no, stop, pull back. This is a chapter. You are
mm,
closing a chapter which has been both traumatic and life-saving. You know, my
mm,
world fell apart around me, but I also got sober, had a beautiful home to live in. And I was literally talking to myself about that. And it's not happening tonight. It's not happening today. At the moment, you are safe. There is nothing that is going to, throw a spanner in the works at the moment. And that's all I've got to work with.
mm, mm,
I don't know where, I've never seen the place I'm moving to. Everything is an unknown quantity to me.
mm.
And I'm absolutely terrified, but I just keep telling myself, just take a breath. And I have no control over anything that's happening.
Now,
This is the girls' house. They're doing what they're doing.
when you say I'm terrified, you mean a part of you is terrified.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
The part that
Yeah.
came out last night. Yeah. And that's what I
Yeah.
was saying. Like, it's not happening now. Yes, it will happen. Yes, it's going to be hella emotional, but you're going to survive it. You're okay. And I've
Well,
said to Georgia, I trust you with my life. If you tell me I'm going to be okay, I believe you. I trust you. So,
yeah, and
yeah, it's a
also
bit overwhelming.
what this part wants from you is that reassurance that it's safe being
Yeah,
with you, that you're here for it,
yeah,
and that you see it, and you're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing what you're terrified about. You don't have
yeah,
to carry that alone. I'm here. I'm right here with you. Thank you for sharing that with me. Because the truth is being with this part, it doesn't have to be freaked out about the situation, right? Like when you're with the terror of this part and you're really allowing the space to be with this part and hear the story about what's so terrifying about it, right? Like what does it feel like it's gonna happen, right? And just keep listening to what it's so terrified about, right? And like what it feels like will happen, and what
yeah,
it scares the most, what it scared the most about it, right? And just start
yes,
to really listen to this part, and maybe you journal what this part is sharing with you, right? Maybe you write it down, and then maybe you guys go do like a little fire and you go burn it together, right? And you're like, hey, let's go release some of this terror that we're holding, and I'll show you how to do it, right?
yeah,
Or
yes,
maybe you go take a shower with this part and you say, you know what, this terror, I want you to bring it to the tip of my mind, and we're just going to let the water just wash it away, right? And we're just going to like wash away the terror, and have an intentional shower, right? Use the water element to support this part with feeling refreshed about this experience that's showing up, right?
Is this Georgia's home that you're going to?
Georgia's bought a new property down on the south coast of New South Wales. Yeah,
It's so
I had
oh
to
that's
drive 22 hours myself.
oh
Yes, so they've sold the house that they owned that Tim left them. They also own this house. So they've sold that one, and Georgia's bought a property down the coast completely off grid, drop toilets. Um, yeah, and I've never seen it. I'm just moving into it.
Yep, you're just taking
It's
one
very
step at a
scary.
time.
well, it's also sounds like an adventure.
It is. And
Yes.
and the best part, oh my God, there's two best parts. There's a registered grave on the property.
Oh,
Then we found out that apparently there's a clause in the purchase, there's a clause in the contract that apparently the person that died and is buried on this property was a really popular person. So he has visitors who come to mourn him, and they have to give us notice so they can come onto the property and visit the grave. What the hell?
Oh my God.
And then back in the 90s, the original owners of the property, because it's all hand built mud brick house, it's just stunning. And they entered into an agreement, a conservation agreement with the New South Wales government, because there's all these endangered plants and animals on the land. So 4 hectares of this land is set aside, not to be touched ever, for prosperity, because it's got endangered animals on it.
Oh my God. That's amazing though.
Georgia, have we got binoculars?
Oh my
Yes,
God.
there's some flat-footed, big-eared bat or something.
Oh.
I'm going. I just can't breathe. I can't breathe. And it's called shit. What's it called? Devil's Hole.
My God.
I
That's
can't cope.
perfect
Devil's
for you.
Hole with a registered grave that people come and mourn at, and
This
a
is
space set aside for footed bats. Is it machine?
this is meant to be. This is
The
meant
pink
to be.
toilets. I don't do drop toilets very well, so that's going to be a nightmare.
You need to
My mum
wait.
said, "Do you want to go and live on a property where you have to bury your own poo?" You're right.
It's so fun. You need to take when you're there. I want you to take let us see your property and stuff. I want to see like pictures and everything. It's so exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What a great adventure. And it's gonna be a nice adventure for you.
Yeah, so
New beginnings
yeah,
for the new Leanne.
it'll be just a month before my 63rd birthday, so
Yeah.
hopefully it'll be my last forever home.
Absolutely. That's
Thank you so much, Dylan, as always.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Actually, I want us to end on this last slide here about
Oh,
polarization,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes.
I have time.
just because I think this might be a good slide
Open
to
my
end
door.
on, and then next week we can pick up on the unburdening of the polarization, right? Because again, it's really important that we know about the connections to the self, or to the self energy, to the self, and then working with these parts. And we'll start to notice that protectors will fight each other, right? You guys are already experiencing this, where one is trying to keep you safe one way, and then another might have a different way of keeping you safe. And both of them are fighting for control over how to keep you safe, right? So sometimes we have protectors uh, that one of them might say to stay somewhere, right? We might have a part of us that says stay, you shouldn't go, and then another part says you should leave and you shouldn't stay. And then another one says, oh, you should speak up, but another one might say, oh, you should stay quiet. And it's like sometimes we have these parts that are conflicting with what they're sharing with us, and how they want to reduce the suffering or reduce the pain, and they just can't agree on how to do it. And then over time, these internal conflicts become exhausting. So the shift, what we do, instead of picking a side to a part, sometimes when we work with one part, another part will jump into space, right? And instead of picking the sides of the parts, what we're doing instead is we're learning how the self could be curious about both parts. And we're like, oh, I see you part jumping in, but hold on a sec, let me get curious about this part first. And then as you're still curious about that part, maybe you learn something, and then you can jump back to that other part, right? And you'd be like, hey, now I'm curious about that thing that you shared earlier. What were you talking about? Let's go into it. Let's talk about it now. I'm here for you. And when the protectors discover the exile that they're trying to protect, and they see that this exile is safe, they relax, and then a whole new relationship becomes developed. A whole new role becomes developed. Where, like I said, maybe they don't protect you to micromanage things anymore. Maybe instead they're protecting your openness, and they're protecting you on how to stay open instead of closed. Because all of these protectors are just trying to help us. They're just not. They just don't always know a different way until we connect. We get curious about them. We understand them, and then self literally shows them another way. They're like, hey, you don't have to do it this way. This is exhausting. Any questions about polarization of the different parts? And then, like I said, next week we'll go deeper into the unblending, the witnessing of them, and then the unburdening process. Because I know that's what we're really looking for, is how to unburden them. It's just important that we unblend first. We build the relationship. We can't skip this step because unburdening will never be possible until we build this relationship. We build this trust with them. Then they're like, okay, now I'm willing to be unburdened, and we'll go over the signs on how when unburdening is uh, like available. We'll go over how to invite a part to unburden, and then we can gauge when it's open for it, when it's not open for it, and we'll
So
go over the difference between relief that the parts have, but what's different when it unburdens itself, and we'll go over the differences of the two.
so when those two are at war, or one trying to protect you and the other one, you stay curious about them, right?
Correct. You
Yeah.
stay curious about them. When you're in self and you're unblended, you're curious about them. But now
Mm.
sometimes when we're working with a part and another part comes in, we might get blended with that part.
Yeah.
That sometimes happens as well, and we're just
Yeah.
learning, okay, unblend and how to unblend, right?
Right.
Which is
A
why I
lot of
point out your languaging so you guys can see it for yourself as you're
yes.
saying it, right? It's really just so you can start seeing it.
But how do you know if you've chosen one over the other? There's a
This
more when you're saying that when you're trying to choose one over the other, and it causes that confusion. And if you've chosen one over the other, then you wouldn't really have that conflict, would you? Because you've already made the choice
If you chose a part over another part, you would still
over
have
another.
conflict. You would still have
Oh,
conflicts. Yeah.
okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's the choosing of the part at the expense of the other that creates the conflict,
That
actually.
create.
Yeah, so the self is learning how to not pick one side or the other, how to be with both of them. Because that's where the conflicts are coming from. Because you could be on one side of the conflicts and the other side still might be conflicted, right? So you could choose like to be with one and then clear that part out. Maybe he's not burdened, that part's not burdened, but then maybe this other part's still burdened, right? And still needs nurturement and a relationship with the self. So that's why I'm saying we don't pick and choose, but if we happen to do this, we can tell a part actually came in and did that. And then that's what we'll work with. We'll work with that part that came in and did that. And then the part that chose one part over another part, right? And it becomes a whole part's messy business.
And now, is a part everything that has to do with separation? Like, if you're very, very happy, it doesn't mean you're in a part. If you're happy, aren't you part of? Aren't you become the self and the
The
and
part
the
could be happy though. Like a part could be happy. It could be the self. It could be a part. Yeah, it could be both. The
so
thing that you'll know about the self is that it's never anything other than joy, happy, calm, peace, sharing perspective. But a part could be either or. Yeah,
the part could be one of those.
a part could be burdened and have like sadness and loneliness and
Yes.
resentment and bitterness, or it could be joyful and happy and right. It could be. a part can have
Oh
all flavors
yeah,
of
I
you.
can see that like a part of me when it's like really happy over something like a material thing. I can feel like that's
Yeah.
it.
Like I was sharing with you about the Funyuns the other day that I ate, and my part
Yes.
was loving it. I ate the whole bag, and my part was like,
Yes.
"Gosh, this is exactly what I wanted," and it was amazing, you know.
I've been doing that the past couple of days. I just ate a whole bag of like these pistachios and I love them like every night and then I just dipped into everything and that was definitely a part of me. But then when you're in complete peace and like calm, then you're not in any part. You're in yourself, right?
I mean, a part could be calm too, yeah. But that's a good way of indicating self energies. There is when you're
Oh,
calm and compassionate and curious and connected. But a part could also experience that, especially if it's an unburdened part, and maybe that's their role is to champion courage or to champion compassion. So, yeah, it's both and yeah. It's always the self, but it could be a part that's being self led as well,
mm, oh,
which is
cool.
really what we're learning. We're just learning how to stop letting these parts kind of run the show. We're like noticing them, like, hey, take a back seat, let self lead, and then we're going to nurture you, but we're going to take control right now instead of the part trying to take control and do all of its stuff, right? That's really what we're learning.
How do you do that if if you don't know when you're not in the part if they could be happiness and peace and everything, but
That's the practice, knowing when you're blended and unblended. It becomes
yeah.
so obvious when you do this practice.
I
Like,
think I'm really yeah.
yeah, like right now you're still learning it, but you'll see like it becomes really really obvious. Like when I talked about the Funyun, you're like, oh yeah, my part too. So it
Yeah.
becomes obvious as you really start to unburden and go through the different stages of the process and
Yeah.
have your own direct experience. And what's beautiful about that too is everybody who has their own direct experience, you then you could share this with other people because you kind of went through it. So it's like you know how to really be with it. It's just about how curious you want to be with someone else's part,
So I'm
and
this
how patient you want to be with that part versus does your part get in the way? And that's partly the fun of it, you know.
this
Like I got
class
parts all the time that come up with clients, and I tell them, "Ooh, I got to be with you later," so I could be with the client, you know. And then I go be with that part later. I'm like, "Hey, like what came up? Like what was going on there? You know, like why are you getting offended about that? Like I don't understand like where you're coming from, right?" And I'll go excavate it, right? This is what we call as in therapy transference and countertransference, right? So they're using the same term. That's where a part gets activated, and then you go and self-soothe your part. It happens too in ceremonial spaces. They call this being hollowed bone, right? Where like no matter what happens with your part, it doesn't come and influence the ceremony because you're hollowed bone. You're able to allow that part to kind of just be, and then later you go in and go nurture it and be with it.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's what we're learning how to do is how to essentially be hollowed bone. And how to be relational with these parts and other people's parts too.
Mm.
Cool. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, this class was incredible. I have to watch
Yeah,
it again.
thank yes,
Yeah,
thank you so
I'll.
much.
You're so welcome. I'll share the recording and I'll make sure you guys have the slides too.
Yes.
And then next week we'll go deeper into the unburdening process. We might talk about blending and unblending one more time because I feel
Yeah,
like it's good
Yeah.
to rehear
I
these things.
guess
Yeah.
I
And then we
agree.
can go
Thank
in and
you.
then we can go into it. Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds
Because
perfect.
Cool.
as soon as I go and I'll be wandering around this afternoon going, am I blended or
Blended?
am I,
It's a good question to be with. Do I know if this is a vulnerable part or a protector part?
yes,
If you can't
yeah,
recognize if it's a vulnerable part or protector part, you're blended.
awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So good.
Yeah. Have a
Amazing.
great weekend,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank
Now
Thanks
the
for
you.
long wait
today.
begins
I
again.
know.
Yeah.
The long week.
Right.
Oh my
See you next
God.
week, everyone.
Okay.
Shalom,
Bye.
shalom.
Shalom,
Bye.
shalom.